All right. Welcome to the live Q&A, everybody. We're live on YouTube as well as live on Facebook right now. So we're going to see people start trickling in here. Let's see here. Let's wait for people to trickle in. Let's see. All right. I'm going to share this on Instagram so we can get more people in here. All right. YouTube, we got 11 people on YouTube. Facebook, we don't have anybody right now. But YouTube, how are you guys doing? Let me know where you guys are from. Just comment where you're from. Let's see. From Germany. I was actually just close to Germany. I was in Spain about 24 hours ago. I woke up, what is it, maybe an hour ago, but I was really sick. So sorry I was a few minutes late today, guys. But let's see here. We got Germany. We have Idaho. Welcome, welcome. I think we have Lynn here, Vancouver. How's it going, Lynn? And then we have Virginia. We have Washington. Awesome. Sweden, Germany. Let's see. Michigan, Edward Island, Vancouver. Oh, okay. What's up, Edward? All right, I'm just trying to go live on YouTube again. Give me a second. Sorry, not YouTube. Facebook. Okay, so it looks like I am live. I think I'm live right now. Let's see. Give me like 1 minute, guys. Hold on. Test, test, test. Facebook is being weird. Go live. This always happens. Whenever I try to go live on multiple platforms at once, it always likes to throw some curveballs. But okay, it's going live on Facebook. All right, back to YouTube. So let's see. We got Germany, Idaho, Vancouver, Virginia, Washington, Sweden, Germany. Wow, we got like 27 people on YouTube right now. So it's picking up quite quickly. I love Germany. I was in Cologne, Munich, Frankfurt, and Berlin last summer. I'll probably go visit there again this year because we have so many thrivers in Germany. There's a lot of CFS, and long COVID in Germany for some reason. But it looks like we also got Ireland in the house. How's it going, Melanie? All right, let's jump into it. We can start off with some questions. My goal here today, we got 90 minutes together, and I want to answer as many questions as I can to help you guys recover from CFS. So I think there was a question already. So Johannes on YouTube, she asked, how do I know I can expand my baseline? Well, that's a very general question. It's almost like, when should I start lifting heavier weights? So, I mean, I need to know more about your situation, but typically when your symptoms are lower, when you're feeling like, you're more, what do you call it? Emotionally in control and the anxiety is down a good amount, then you can start expanding your baseline. But you don't want to start expanding activity when your body is really sensitive. So if you are in the middle of a flare up, for example, where your symptoms are significantly more intense than they normally are, then I probably would not expand activity. I'd probably just maintain activity. But if you were doing pretty solid and things were moving along quite nicely and your body was doing okay, then I would say expand. You want to expand when your symptoms are tolerable and manageable, not when you feel like recovery is going off the rails. So we used to use a number system inside all of our recovery systems. By the way, how's my audio, guys? Is it okay? Is it, I'm looking at the audio on YouTube, and I don't know if it's coming through the proper mic. It's okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we used to use a numbering system. We used to say if symptoms on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute worst, and 1 is, almost no symptoms at all. If it's above a 5, then pull back. If it's lower than a 5, then you can expand activity. Meaning when the symptoms aren't that intense, if they're under a 5, you're in the clear. But people started getting confused because it also depends on how well you're responding to symptoms. So you want to expand activity when things are somewhat manageable, not when you feel like you're getting shaky in recovery mentally. As long as you're responding well emotionally, then that can actually help a lot because you can have a pretty high level of symptoms, but if you're responding well emotionally, you can actually tolerate more and the adjustment period or flare up won't be as intense after. So that's one thing to definitely keep in mind. So how do I know when I can expand my baseline? I'd really have to know your exact situation. But in general, when symptoms are tolerable, you can join the Recovery Foundation's masterclass for free. It's going to walk you through all of that stuff, and it's going to dive a little bit deeper. And also, in any of our other recovery systems, we have a nervous system health assessment where we identify exactly where you're at in terms of symptoms, activity levels, where you are in the grand scheme of things on I guess, like a timeline for recovery. And then from there, we can kind of reverse engineer what the path looks like forward. So we'll know exactly how much activity you'd be able to do. But there's a lot of things we need to know in order to say exactly. But there's another question over here. Many experts say they only saw people recover from long COVID, but never ME/CFS. Why? Yeah, that's not true. I also was talking to somebody yesterday. He said he saw Bigfoot. So um, don't believe everything people say. And I'd really question which experts these are because I'll tell you, I've seen hundreds of people recover from CFS. And so many other channels out there, they've also seen so many people recover from CFS. So be careful what you believe in. Be very, very careful what you feed your mind. But I can tell you 100,000% for a fact that I've seen so many people recover from diagnosed CFS, right? So just because they say something doesn't mean it's true. And that's the thing, in the online world nowadays, people can say whatever. And if you are in that, you know, anxious state, you can hear 99 good things and one bad thing. Your mind's going to latch onto it. So be very careful of what you feed your mind. But, people can recover from CFS 100%. All right, let's see. Does not being able to eat much heighten symptoms during recovery? Does not being able to eat much heighten symptoms during recovery? It can. It definitely can. That's one of those things. So, if you're not getting enough nutrients or calories, food is basically energy. So if you're not eating that much, it does put a lot of stress on your body. So yeah, it can definitely lead to some symptoms during recovery. But over time, as you fix the hypersensitive nervous system, that stuff goes away. There was a time when I really couldn't tolerate more than maybe 10 different foods. Anything outside of that would be very difficult to digest and would actually lead to symptoms. So I would get, stomach aches, I'd get dizziness, brain fog, I'd just feel really sick. But over time, and I lost a lot of weight too. So that's another thing. I didn't have a lot of energy because I wasn't eating. I was losing weight, felt weak, felt dizzy. blood sugar was low, but over time that does go away and that does get solved. So, yeah, that is normal. Not being able to eat much, it can definitely lead to heightened symptoms, but that goes away. Okay. Let's see. Shandy asks, "Am I trying to I am trying to increase activity by walking on my treadmill for 15 to 20 minutes inclined. The next day or two, I'm in an AP. It feels like I'm in an AP every other day now. Am I doing something wrong?" Yeah, I wouldn't depends. Like, I would really need to know your situation, but I would first ask you, do you enjoy walking on the treadmill? Or are you doing it just because you feel like you have to increase your walking abilities? That doesn't sound too exciting, feeling like feeling the need to push yourself on a treadmill on an incline for 15 to 20 minutes. I would say instead of that, here's an idea. Instead of doing the treadmill walk, go walk outside in nature. As long as the temperature is not crazy, but go get some sunshine, go get some fresh air. That is a lot better for your body and I think your mind than walking on a treadmill feeling like you're training for something. And also don't measure it. The whole 15 to 20 minutes, I would completely get rid of that. And I would just go walk outside. You'll know roughly what 15 to 20 minutes it is. But if you start measuring things a little bit too closely, it's going to put your body in a very risk aware state because you're not going to want to go over 20 minutes. And if you do go over 20 minutes, you're going to start thinking you've overdone it. Most likely you're going to be thinking that. So that's what I would say. I'd switch that to walking outside, getting some fresh air, listen to some good music in like one ear as well. Um, I would try doing that. I think that would really, really make a difference. Oh, you love, okay. So I'm just looking at the comments. You love walking and working out. Yeah. So I just switch to walking outside. Yeah. Walk outside and don't time it. Go for like a distance, like walk to the yellow house down the block or something like that. Or walk to the orange mailbox. Pick some kind of landmark. Because the thing with that is you're going by you're going by feel quite a bit. You're not saying I have to walk for a certain amount of time or speed. Also, if you are tracking your heart rate, unless your doctor says you absolutely have to track your heart rate because you have a heart condition, get rid of the heart rate monitor because it's just going to make you overthink things. But yeah, that's what I would do. But I hope that helps. Okay, Jurgen, I think it's Jurgen or Jurgen asks, is it possible to consume caffeine again at one point? Yes, definitely. So I actually couldn't drink caffeine from about 19 years old to 26 years old. 7 years I could not drink caffeine, couldn't even touch it. And it was a really dark time for those years. At least 4 of those years were very no, 5 of those years were very dark because a lot of those times I was actually at home as well. But I didn't touch alcohol, couldn't drink tea, couldn't drink caffeine, and I was scared for those years that if I drank any of those, even one drop, that it would set my body into haywire. But for the last couple of years, I've been drinking caffeine. I could drink caffeine, no problem. I could drink alcohol, tea, and my body's completely fine. In fact, it handles it better nowadays than it did before. So I'm more resilient than before. My body's more anti-fragile than prior to getting sick, which actually goes against the whole theory or the notion that you can't ever get back to 100% or you can't fully recover from this. You're just going to be in remission. So that's garbage. You can absolutely make a comeback and become stronger and better and faster and more resilient than prior to getting sick. So I'll tell you what, the people who do say that, who say you can't get back to what you were doing before, you know what? They're either still sick or they don't know exactly why they got better. Right? They don't know that this is actually a repeatable process where you can expand your threshold more and more and more and build it up. So one of my goals for this year is to run a marathon, like a full 42, what is it, a half marathon? Or I think, no, a full marathon is about 42 kilometers, I think, 46, something like that. But I want to run that just to prove to people that you can beat this thing. Now, I've never ran a marathon before. The furthest I've ran in one time is 10 kilometers. And I did that. I did the 10 kilometers in December, 4 months ago. So I was traveling. I was in Hawaii for a personal development conference. And at the time I was there was a marathon race. So I didn't sign up for the full one. I signed up for a portion of the marathon, which was 10 kilometers. I was running on 4 hours of sleep, some coffees, and zero training for running. I don't run at all. I just don't run. So I ran 10 kilometers. I actually documented it. It's on my YouTube channel. And I explained why I did it. And it was to prove a point. All these people saying, you got to be careful once you get your life back. You got to be really careful because you might relapse. I hate that word. And I wanted to prove that you can go beyond what you've done before. And, I've seen it so many times. I've seen so many people get their lives back and actually be better than they were prior to getting sick. And you'll hear that in almost every single recovery video online right now for CFS and long COVID. Just go search it up. You'll hear it straight from those people. So just want to share that. So yeah, you can definitely consume caffeine again and do way more than that. Okay, let's see. Misty Robinson asks, I'm about 60 to 70% recovered. Okay, first of all, right off the bat, don't even think about percentages. But I'm in an AP again. Did you experience this later on in your recovery? I had 3 to 4 good months, so it's a bit of a blow. I'm responding as well as I can. Yeah, definitely. That is very common because as you expand activity, every time you expand activity, you will have, you'll probably have somewhat of an AP. Call it 80%, 90%. Again, I don't like measuring in percentages because once you fully recover and get your life back, you'll realize there was no percentages because some days you're feeling good, sometimes you're feeling tired. I don't even I don't even feel like I'm at 100% because that scale doesn't exist. I'm just living my life, right? You're not some battery. You're not some battery that goes down and up. Although it can feel like that in the midst of CFS, that's not how the body works, right? So I would start getting rid of that percentage recovered. But even when you are fully functional, even when you are, hold on, my screen is really dark. I'll change my camera settings after this question. Even if, let's say you build yourself up to working full time, you are able to function without any symptoms. Your sleep is great. You could eat whatever you want. Even once you get back to that place, let's say you start working out again, right? And let's say you do that for 5 years, but you don't work out. Once you start working out, I guarantee you're going to be sore. You might feel a little bit of symptoms here and there because it's a new level of stimulus you're placing on your body. So anytime you expand, just understand that it's going to come with it some kind of adjustment period. That's why it's called an adjustment period. So don't look at it as something bad. Don't look at it as something good. It's just part of the process. Just like if I go work out, I'm going to be sore, right? They come in 1 and 2 packages. If I want to get stronger, if I want to get more muscles, I'm going to be sore, right? That's actually the whole point of working out as well is to, well, that's one of the things you had a good workout and your body's adapting when you are sore. So look at it as a good sign. You are expanding your capacity. Now, here's where people get here's what messes with people's minds because you may have no symptoms or very minimal symptoms for 3 to 4 months. And you may think, wow, I'm done with that. I never have to deal with that again. Now, that is a trap. Okay. Because if you want to keep expanding, AP, just know the AP is going to come. And that's okay. If you want to continue building an activity. Now, if you don't want to continue building an activity, that's okay as well. So a lot of times I went for 3 to 4 months without any real increase in expansion because sometimes I just wanted to take a vacation from recovery. I like to call it a vacation where I didn't think about symptoms, adjustment periods, pacing myself. I just wanted to chill. So once I was at a level where, I didn't really have to monitor anything I was doing, and I was in a pretty solid place. Then, you know, I just chilled for 4 months, just did the similar stuff, just enjoyed life, and then I thought, "You know what? It's time to take things to the next level." And that's when I intentionally increased activity, and of course, I got the AP. Then I forgot how bad the APs were. Not bad, but how uncomfortable they were, right? That's another trick, side note, don't call the APs bad, don't call the symptoms bad, call them uncomfortable. Okay, they're not bad. They're just science. It's your body responding. So just call them uncomfortable sensations. That's what it is. So, I think as long as you keep responding well, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. But just know that this is a necessary part of growth. There's no way around it. And you have to be okay with that adjustment period if you want to expand activity. There's no such thing as you gain something for nothing. There's always something you have to put in, just like anything in life. To achieve a certain result, you have to give something for it. Now, in this case, in CFS, yeah, you have to go through some discomfort in order to unlock that new stage. But when you unlock that stage and you get to the top and you have no more symptoms down the road, that's what makes it all worth it. And it'll make you appreciate all the capacity and freedom that you have because you earned every ounce of capacity that you have. I can walk down the street today. To me, it's not just walking down the street. Like there was a time when I couldn't walk. So I'm really, really happy to walk down the street. Whereas another person, it's just walking. So it makes you really grateful for all the simple things in life. But hold on, let me share this. I'm going to share this to my Instagram. Let's see. Give me a second, guys. You guys learning stuff today so far? Questions. Appreciate the questions, guys. Okay, hold on. Just got to share this to my Instagram. But I hope I'm making sense though. And sorry, I'm a bit sick today. Yesterday, I was on a flight. Well, I was in flights and airports for about 20 hours. It was a very long journey yesterday, and I woke up really sick. So I'm doing this while sick, but didn't want to cancel this. Let's see. Join the live Q&A call now. Okay, it was posted. I look really yellow in this shot. I think my camera settings are off a little bit. All right, let's see. Tamar Mullen asks, actually, no, there's a question before that. Madison asks, what do you recommend people do who are so reactive they can barely do anything, symptoms 24/7? I have a video about this. Well, I have actually dozens of videos about this. So let me try to sum it up into, a short paragraph. If you're so reactive, you can barely, I need to understand what barely anything is. To some people, barely anything is stuck in bed, you can't roll over. Other people, they can kind of move around the house. So either way, if you're dealing with symptoms 24/7, just understand that your body is probably locked in some kind of fight or flight mode. Now, if you have symptoms 24/7, I'm going to show you guys something here, actually. This might help illustrate what's going on. Well, actually, I can't share my screen because I'm on YouTube. Oh, no, I can. Okay. Let me pull something up here, guys. Trust me, it will be worth the wait. So, if you are feeling symptoms 24/7, you're probably in that orange stage in the polyvagal triangle. Now, you might be asking, what's the polyvagal triangle? Let me show you. I'm going to share my screen. Window. Okay. Okay, so here is an example. Here's a diagnostic assessment. Now, this assessment, it's one of the things we use to figure out where somebody is at and what their trajectory will look like moving forward. Actually, this is an older version. Let me see if I could find a newer version. Give me a second. Downloads. Okay. Here it is. So, hold on. I'm just going to hide this person's name. Give me a second. Okay. Yeah. So this is our up to date diagnostic assessment. Now, this is something we do with every single person who applies to our platinum program, which is our highest level recovery system where we work one on one, build personalized plans, and all that stuff. Give me a second. All right. Sorry, my throat is killing me. So if we look here, this individual is, 50 years old, 6 months with this illness, and from the diagnostic assessment, and it's a handful of questions we go through. Obviously, a lot of symptoms this individual is dealing with, and this is just some of them. Most people they can't even add all of them because there's so many. But a lot of symptoms we're dealing with, a lot of fatigue, sensitivity, increased heart rate, can't sit for longer than a few minutes, right? Biggest roadblocks is just, can't make progress. They're stuck in the loop, which I see that almost on every single one of these diagnostic assessments, which is why people reach out to us. But if we go here, the couch-bound phase is typically where people have those symptoms 24/7, or we like to call it the orange. Now, polyvagal theory, um, if you guys want to search that up after this, it basically talks about these different levels of how basically how jacked up your nervous system is. How much in fight or flight mode are you? Are you completely bedridden, which is full freeze mode? Your body senses that there's some kind of danger, so it's keeping you stuck. Or are you all the way up here, semi-functional or functional? So there was a lady earlier, I think Shandy. You're probably up here in the semi-functional slash functional stage, probably semi-functional, because you're able to go on 15 to 20-minute treadmill walks, incline, right? So you have the capacity to do a handful of things, but you're getting APs every couple days. So a lot of times where people fall in here is see these dotted lines here. These are like recovery ceilings where it keeps you stuck in a loop. So someone may be couch bound and every time they try to do stuff, they're getting better and better. They're feeling some progress, but then they'll hit this wall. So they'll either overdo it a little bit too much, or they'll something will happen, and then boom, they slide backwards. Symptom flare up, and it's like 2 steps forward, then 2 steps back. Then they get a little bit better over a few weeks or months. They make it up here. They're almost out of it, and then they can't break through this ceiling here, and then they fall back. So it's like a cycle that goes back and forth. But the orange phase is typically where we see people having those symptoms 24/7. Between the orange and like up here, I mean, obviously bedridden as well, but typically in the orange, and that's where people have a lot of adrenaline and heart rate symptoms, palpitations, heart skips, a racing heartbeat, things like that. But I just wanted to show this to you guys because there is an actual process in place to get better. A lot of people they think about, okay, I'm bedridden or I'm couchbound. I need to start walking more. I need to start going outside to do more things. But we're skipping a really big step here, which is let's just get moving around the house. Or if you're couch bound, let's just get you showering more. Let's get you going to the washroom, brushing your teeth, standing up a bit more, or being able to prepare your own food, or being able to do, simple chores around the house like make your bed or change into new clothes every day. Right. But once you get to that housebound stage, now we can start, getting outside a little bit more. We can start breaking out of that housebound state. And with that, it's not like we're going driving right away. We're not going for long walks down the block. We're really just getting outside, exposing yourself to these different elements, right? I don't know why it stopped sharing. Let me share it again. So this is just something really interesting, but each of these stages, I like to call them stages, there's a whole protocol for each of these stages. And actually, I want to show you guys something cool. Let's take this a step further because I think you guys will find this fascinating. But is this making sense so far? How there are certain ceilings, or we call them sticking points, where you'll almost get past it, but then it'll kind of pull you back. Does that make sense? Just want to get a feel for that while I pull up the this other document. Yeah, because if you're bedridden or if you're couch-bound, your approach is going to be somewhat different than if you're semi-functional. The main, what is it? The main fundamentals stay the same, as in, hey, we're trying to fix a hypersensitive nervous system. We know we have to respond well. We know that we need to go into these progress cycles, that we're going to have adjustment periods as we increase activities. So those main principles stay the same, but what you actually do and how you expand activity and how much you do, that changes as you move through these different stages. You don't have to be perfect. And actually, if you just follow the fundamentals, that is really all you need. All you need to recover. So all this other stuff here, like exactly what to do, it's not a big deal if you don't get it perfect. But another thing cool as well is, based on what we've seen with so many people, we're able to figure out a recovery trajectory. So, if you're in the orange, for example, let's say you're couch bound, you're in this wired but tired state where you have symptoms constantly, we can actually figure out roughly how long you would take. So if someone's couch bound, it can take anywhere from 7 to 11 months to recover. Now, what does recovery look like? Recovery looks like, okay, let's look here. There's an explanation. Month 12, functional, CFS no longer defines you. You have your life back, work, socialize, and move without constantly thinking about symptoms. Let me make this wider. CFS no longer defines your days, and you're confident in your body's ability to go through life. So there's different timelines we have here for people. I don't know why it looks really weird right now. There we go. But yeah, so there's recovery trajectory timelines as well, which I think is pretty cool. But anyways, back to this. How I was talking about how there were different stages, right? I'm going to show you guys how we reverse engineer some of this stuff. And feel free to take a screenshot if you want, but this is part of our recovery system we have here. A lot of people think that coaching or the advice we give, we're just coming up with it off the top of our head, but we're actually going by certain protocols that we've created just based on seeing so many cases. For example, if you are completely in freeze state, I mean, if you're in freeze state, it's probably difficult to even watch this video. So most of you probably aren't here right now, but what are the steps between these different stages, right? Bedbound, not moving, and then introducing movement. Bedbound and moving, bedbound sitting up assisted, bedbound sitting up non-assisted, and then different specific actions to do for this stage and why we want to do them. So that way we can kind of handpick certain activities to do. But if we go here, I feel like most people on this call right now, you're probably in the orange phase or in the yellow phase, meaning you're either in, let's see, if we go back to, where is it? If we go back to the triangle, you're probably couch-bound, house-bound, or semi-functional. That's really what these colors mean. But for example, if let's say you're couch-bound, right? Couch-bound or stuck sitting down most of the day, maybe in your room, there's certain steps you want to do. For example, just to show you what a progression looks like so you have an idea. Okay, let's say you just got out of being bedridden, but now you're sitting down most of the time. Introduce gentle movement around the bedroom. Okay, practice moving around the bedroom with the assistance of a walker, a device, something like that. The next stage, introduction to environment outside the bedroom. Have them walk down the end of the hallway, having them walk into different rooms in the house. It's not just a physical exercise, it's mentally teaching your brain that it is safe to go into another room without crashing. Okay, taking walks outside the bedroom, spending more time outside the bedroom, then building tolerance and threshold outside the bedroom, becoming housebound, building housebound tolerance, right? Have them spend their full day outside the bedroom, only use the bedroom for sleep and nothing else. So these are things like sitting out in the living room and doing those kind of things. And then once you get into the semi-functional stage, that's where you start going from housebound to transitioning to the outdoors. And I feel like this is where a lot of people can get stuck. It's how do we reintegrate back into the world, right? Without crashing. That's a big thing as well. So this is typically where we want to make sure, I mean, at every stage, it's important to understand the fundamentals of responding well and why you want to respond well and understanding how progress cycles work. But if you're able to pump the brakes on your activity and do that regularly, when you have these symptoms, you'll be okay. Building tolerance, introducing reconditioning, reintroduction back into the world, reintroduction to society and people, building tolerance to stimulation, building high capacity. And then after this, it's introducing exercise, work, all of these different things. But, this pretty much shows that you don't want to just wing it through recovery. You want to really understand why you're doing the things you're doing. Now, it's much better if you don't even memorize any of this stuff. You don't need to memorize it. The most important thing is to understand the recovery principles and frameworks and fundamentals. All the stuff I share in the I call it the recovery science blueprint, but it's the main fundamentals that my doctor shared with me, right? So you guys might have seen it before, and I've talked about it in almost every video on my YouTube channel. I'll show you really quickly. It's these kind of things. So hold on, let me go here. This is just inside our Recovery Academy. Recovery Science Blueprint. So things like the stress threshold. You guys have heard me talk about this before, right? If you understand what that means, and I have videos on my YouTube, just search that up, or you could join Academy and find out. If you understand the stress threshold, if you understand how your anxiety, it's like a magnifying glass. The more worried you are, the more you're going to feel the symptoms. You understand that. If you understand how progress cycles work, if you understand, there's this one, this is probably, this is what someone asked earlier. When is it okay to expand activity? If you understand what's manageable and what isn't manageable, what that means, it just makes it so much easier. And then the activity, it just happens second nature. But you really want to understand the fundamentals of how you even got this in the first place, why you're feeling the symptoms, why they're sticking around, why you keep flaring up. Why is it that you can do some things and flare up, but other things that seem way more intense, you don't flare up? Or sometimes, why can you do one thing and you're completely fine, then you do the exact same thing the next day and you're not fine, right? So this is the Academy. If you want to go check it out, we always have the 7-day trial open. You can check it out, completely for free. You can join some of the calls. We got a lot of calls right now. And in fact, in like 15 minutes, we even have a caregivers call where people's family or partners, they come to the call and we help coach them on how to recover or how to help the individual recover. And then there's, things like fundamentals calls. This is where a lot of the magic happens. But anyways, I'm getting off task here. You guys want to check it out? I'm going to post it right after this on my Instagram, but you could try it out for free for 7 days. All right. back to the questions. Let me drink some water here. Oh man, I'm really sick right now. I don't know if you could tell on my face. It's okay. I'm hanging in there, expanding my threshold. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so Scott, I know you probably answered this before, but regarding the POTS, is there a correlation with the use of stimulants causing POTS? Haven't found anyone with this type of onset. Any correlation with the use of stimulants cause? Oh yeah, yeah. So I had a lot of POTS, especially as an athlete. I would take a lot of pre-workout and caffeine and stimulants, a lot of stimulants just to wake me up and get me amped up in the gym. Pretty sure that's what led to my early onset of POTS. Like my heart rate would just be through the roof, especially when I was trying to sleep because I'd work out at nighttime, I'd take stimulants, and then I just couldn't sleep because my heart was skipping. And also, whenever I stood up, I get lightheaded or dizzy, or it would feel like there were sometimes where I would take a pre workout and it would feel like somebody just hit me in the head. Like my ears started ringing. I didn't know what was up, down, sideways. I didn't know where I was for about 2 seconds. It felt like it felt like my brain just blacked out and then my heart rate would go through the roof. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people get POTS caused by stimulants. If you look on my YouTube channel, I did an interview with someone recently, Mark Lane. Search up on my channel. He's the most recent interview I've had. At the time of this video, it's April 24th. So the video came out like April 22nd or, within the last few days. He's somebody who had a lot of POTS from stimulants, and he wasn't able to exercise because of it. Now he's able to exercise no problem because he doesn't, use a lot of those stimulants anymore. And he worked on the nervous system stuff. So he's good to go now. Go check that out. All right. CL Huff. How's it going, Lynn? I've been waking up with headaches at about 3 a.m. every night. The headaches are about 5 to 6. Any suggestions? So this is probably a sign that we are stretching the threshold. I mean, usually that's what causes these random symptoms. So if there's headaches, what I would do is immediately do the brain retraining for chronic pain. Because my headaches, they came in and out throughout my recovery, even when I was doing very well and I was crushing it, living life, and not feeling any symptoms really for a handful of months. Sometimes the headaches would come back and nausea and body aches and pains. So immediately, whenever it was a pain symptom, I would do the brain retraining for chronic pain. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. You probably are because you were inside Platinum. But I would really do that. When you wake up, bring that pain down using the brain retraining exercise for chronic pain and just repeat it. Repeat it. I'd I'd make that the automatic go-to. And over time those headaches will go away. Yeah. So that's exactly what I would do. And it may take a few days for it to really bring the pain down, but in the moment it should start to it should start to improve. Yeah. Even within a few minutes, it should bring the pain down a little bit. That's what I would do. Cool. All righty. Let's see. Got a handful of questions here. Okay. Here we go. So there's some very specific questions. I'll try to answer them. I'll see if I can. So Manu asks, at the moment, I can walk for an hour at a time. I do a 20-minute home workout twice a week with simple, light exercises. What would you recommend? What are the next steps in terms of movements and exercises? Well, your capacity is quite high, considering you can walk for an hour at a time. What I would do, so what you have set up here, you're doing quite a bit of activity with a low level of intensity. So I like to think about it. Okay, how do I explain this? Do I have a whiteboard? All right, let me pull up a whiteboard here. Maybe this will explain it better. It's a good question, and yeah, I like it. I like it. This will help a lot of people. So let me just open up my board here, get my graphic design skills going. Okay, share screen. Okay. So in terms of activity, let's say we have a chart here. Okay, so we have a chart. Ooh, no, that's not good. How do I make it straight? Okay, there's a chart like this. If this is intensity of the activity, this is time. What we have here, let's say this is your entire week, right? Let me change the color. Okay, so you have low intensity, very low intensity with the walking, and then you do a light workout at home twice a week. So you get a little spike in the activity. It's like that. And then you're like walking, you're walking, you're walking. Then you have another light exercise at home. So right now, this is what your current week looks like. So the total amount of, let's just say volume. Okay, that looks brutal. Let me get rid of that. So the total amount of volume, it looks like this overall. Okay. What I would do, I would get rid of some of the walks. So instead of walking, hold on. Instead of walking every single day, I dial it back to walking like 3 to 4 times a week. Let's just say we could take, how do I do this? Oh, I know a really good way to illustrate this. Hold on. Let me remove this. Okay. So what we would do is, okay, so this is like a bunch of walking, right? And then you have some days where you do an increase of activity because you walk and you do the workouts. What I would do is take a bunch of the activity from some of your walking days and I would stack it on your workout days. So that way, overall, if we look at the entire week, the volume doesn't change. It's the same amount of volume. We just took some of the energy you're using for the walking on the other days and stacking it on the exercise day, if that makes sense. And then we do it for these other days over here. We take, okay, let's just say like this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We take the Wednesday and Thursday walks. We don't walk on those days. Instead, we'll stack the Tuesday so you could do more there, and then you get some rest after that to adjust to it. Then we walk again. Then we do some exercise. So what is this? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So then we don't walk on Sunday. Instead, we take that capacity and move it over to, what is it, the Friday or whatever that is. So this is just an example. Overall, you're taking activity that you would be doing on other days and stacking it on the more active days. Is that making sense so far? So that way, overall, you're not keeping the walks and then adding in activity as well to the workouts. This is a really safe way to do it. Now, you can also just slightly increase the intensity of the workouts, right? Instead of 20 minutes, you could go for 25 minutes, or you could do more intense exercises. Like there's so many ways you can make the exercises a little bit more intense. So let me actually go back to your question. Do a 20-minute home workout twice a week with simple light exercises. So yeah, I'd need to know what are those simple light exercises? Are they push-ups? Are they squats? If they are push-ups, we would just increase the reps that you're doing. Or we could put a backpack on with books in it and do weighted push-ups. So I need to know what exact exercises you're doing, but overall, you just want to add more stimulus during those workouts, but make sure on the other days you're dialing it back a little bit, if that makes sense. Does this make sense? Okay, yes, push-ups, planks, and squats. Okay. So if it's just those basic ones, those are really easy to adjust. I would honestly just do more reps for those. I just do more reps. So something we do with the people we work with is we slowly progress them on these exercises. Typically, typically, if you're doing push-up, squats, and planks, you just increase the rep range. You don't really have to add on any weight. And then once you go into the gym, instead of doing like 50 push-ups in a workout, you're doing like 10 bench presses, but there's weight on it and it's heavier. So I just do more reps, to be honest. Keep the same exercises and just do the reps. Okay, I'm just looking at the questions over here. Lynn says, I've done the chronic pain exercise, probably not doing it enough. Yes. You want to do it like a crazy person. I would do it over and over again, like sitting in the car at a stoplight before I went to sleep. Because the more the pain annoyed me, the more I did the exercise. Because I knew that exact exercise was was what was going to make the pain go away. So I just did it more and more and more, especially when that pain got annoying. Okay. Gertrude asks, even when I'm tired, but okay, I feel like going for a short walk. I'm scared, but I tell myself that's okay. So I go and end up in the bed the next day. What is the smart thing? Wait, what is being smart about when to do something or not? Um, Maybe you're asking what is a smart thing to do in that situation? Like, do you do it or not? Well, this comes back to one of the concepts we really try to share with people, and this is a huge shift that causes a lot of people to make massive improvements. Like you probably see on my social media, we're posting wins every single week. A lot of people are wondering how the heck do they do that? A big reason is because of the whole concept of black and white thinking. So black and white thinking, it's like this all or nothing approach. It's like I'm either going to do this thing or I'm not going to do it. I'm either going to go for this 10-minute walk or I'm not going to go for a walk at all. We forget about the in between. There's a lot of things that we can do in between these activities, right? For example, instead of going for a walk, you can just get outside. You can stand in front of your house or your apartment or whatever and literally just hang out there. Just shuffle your feet around, get some fresh air because at least you get the sense that you're moving. Because the whole reason I think you want to walk is because you want to move or to feel like you're getting outside into the world. You just want to get out of the house and yeah, that's good for you mentally to get out of that just cooped up environment. So what I would do is go outside, just hang out outside your place. At least you're getting the sense that you're outdoors and it's not quite a walk, but it's pretty darn close to it. And a lot of people, that's how we start them out, actually. When they can't quite go for a walk, but they really want to do it because they feel like it would help them, we say, okay, well, we don't want you in bed the next day. We don't want this whole yo yo of one day you can go for a walk, the other day you can't even really get out of bed. We don't want that. We want to find the happy medium of in between. So that's exactly what I would do for you is just get outside, hang out in front of your house, just be on your feet, shuffle around for a bit, even if it's just for a few minutes, because that will help you get rid of this all or nothing mentality. And that will spill into other areas of life. You know, a lot of times that's why people end up crashing or going backwards, or why they can't fully recover, is because they keep falling into the cycle of all or nothing. Of, if I don't go for that walk, if I don't go hang out with my friends, if I don't do this or that, then I can't. You feel like, how do I say it? You can almost feel like you failed the task. But you getting outside in front of your house, shuffling around for a bit, standing up, even just pacing back and forth, at least you can check that activity off mentally, and it doesn't feel like you did nothing for that day or you didn't go for the walk. You kind of did, but you did an easier version of it. But in your mind, you still check that off. So that's what I would do in that situation. But give me like 45 seconds. I'm just gonna go clear my throat. My throat is killing. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. Right? You just said you're semi-functional one day, then you're bedridden the next day, and then you're couch-bound the next day. So it sounds like you're going through these cycles. You're reaching up here, and then you drop all the way down here. Then you have to work your way back up, and then you're in the cycle. So that's the other interesting thing too. When you are at a higher level, semi-functional, you can definitely dip down into these levels. Now, the symptoms won't be as intense as if you were stuck here all the time. Like, if you're up here, when you drop down to couchbound, you're probably not going to have all of these symptoms at a very high level. You might get a little taste of them, but it's not going to be like if you were stuck here and that was your actual level. So, right off the bat, and you probably know the reason why you're dropping down here. I think in general, you're overdoing it because there's no way we should be dropping from going from all the way up here to down here within just a few days. The good news though is that your body is bouncing back. It's coming back up very quickly. So your body is very resilient. You just need to start listening to it a little bit more and pacing yourself a little bit more. So whatever you're doing when you are up here in that semi-functional stage, just dial it back a little bit because you're definitely doing too much if you are dropping all the way down here. So just dial it back. Doesn't mean you need to stop everything. Doesn't mean you need to, play it super, super safe and start tracking your activity and then whatever you're doing right now, cut it in half, and measure it. Don't do all that stuff. Just dial it back a little bit. It's kind of like driving on the highway, right? We have this analogy. Okay, I'll show you. We have this analogy. Let me go to classroom, blueprint, finding your optimal zone. Okay. It's just like driving. What you're doing is your level of activity is all the way up here. And that's when you can start to, you know, put too much stress on the engine, on the nervous system, and then you drop down in capacity. Where is it? Yeah. So imagine if you're a car and imagine right now the way you're going about things, you're just driving a little bit too fast. That's all. You're doing a little bit too many things, a little bit too intensely for a little bit too long. So all we need to do, no big deal. We just need to tap on the brakes a little bit. So you go from think of your activity levels as like a speedometer. You're up here. We want to bring you over here in the middle, in this optimal zone, so you don't have such an extreme yo-yo throughout these different stages of the triangle, right? Is that making sense? So just pump the brakes a little bit. Want to bring it back down here so you are in that optimal zone. If we go up here, capacity expansion guide fundamentals, I mean, you're probably pushing it up here, right? To the point where yeah, actually, no, this is exactly what you're doing. You are going beyond what's manageable, which is why you end up in, in the bed for the next day. So a lot of times there's a delay effect as well because you may not be feeling those symptoms right away. There might be a delay of like 1 or 2 days. Sounds like it's a day where the next day, then you get hit with the symptoms and then it's overwhelming. But the time you're doing it, it's actually okay. So you don't even realize that, oh, I'm doing too much. But now that you've seen a pattern, and this is completely normal too. I'm not saying you did it wrong or anything, because you have to go through these stages to find out what's going on. What are your patterns? How does your body respond? So it sounds like on reflecting about this, now we know that you are semi-functional. You drop down, then you work your way back up. Now we can figure out, okay, what do we need to adjust? Right? Not like you did anything wrong. Like you're in the learning process. And what we need to adjust is the intensity of activity you're doing or the length or whatever. We just need to pump the brakes on your activity. Does that make sense? Is iPus still here? Oh my goodness, I've been muting the whole time. Oh man, I've been muted the whole time. I'm sorry, guys. I just talked so much about this. Oh man. Okay. It wasn't muted on Facebook, but okay. You can hear me now though? Oh, you guys could hear me. Okay. Oh, you heard me the whole time. Okay. Sorry, I thought I was seeing something. Okay. I got scared for a second. I was like, man, I'm dropping some golden nuggets here. That was a good few minute snippet. But yeah, okay. Yeah, someone had to ask a quick question here. The blueprint from bedbound to thriving that you shared, is there something similar that includes also socializing and cognitive stuff? Yeah, so this where is it? Where is it? Yeah, something around here. We're adding more to it actually. Where is it? Social outings. Here it is. Oh yeah, reintroduction to society and people. And also there are cognitive stuff within this. So like these are the overarching ideas, and then there's certain things to do within these steps. But yeah, I think we actually need to add more to these different things. And also, I mean, we haven't updated this in a little bit, but to really make sure that this is scientifically based, we have certain articles to support the reason we're doing this in every single step. So that way people can't say, "Oh, you guys are just making this up. Prove it. How do you know this works?" Oh, there's science over here. So all the science is connected. All right. Let's go back to the questions. Go all the way back up. Um, oh, hey, okay. I want to answer this question. Okay. So someone put here, not going to say the name. She says, at 81, I'm having to accept it ain't going to happen. Some days will be a little bit better, but I'm never going to get better. I think it did too much damage to my body and took too much energy away. What is it? 4 days ago. Not even. It was about 4 or 5 days ago. I interviewed somebody who was 83 years old. 2 years ago, she was bedridden. Bedridden. She could not function. Very sick, very extreme symptoms. She couldn't even look at a video like this, like you are looking at this video, Mary. So she was worse than you, right? When a garbage truck would drive by, it made her ears go crazy. Any kind of light would hurt, and she's an outdoor person. She bikes over 100 miles a week right now. 2 years ago, she was bedridden, and she's 83 years old. So don't say that because I'm 81, it ain't gonna happen. Do not say that. And you'll see. You'll see. When this lady's video comes out, you'll see. And I want you to listen to that recovery story. Her name is Dusty. Now, in the past, she's done a lot of biking, a lot of cycling, very competitive. It was all kind of stripped away from her when her body hit a wall, but she had some extreme symptoms, very extreme symptoms. But now she's biking over 100 miles a week. She just signed up in November for a 200-mile race. Now we don't know if it's going to happen yet. We'll see how our body's feeling when we get to that point. But right now she's biking over 100 miles a week, and she's saying, she's living her best life. And she's turning 84 this year, and she says, you know what? I got a handful of years left. Not a handful. I got so many years left to live my life, and I'm not going to let this thing define me. I'm not just going to roll over and give up and say, oh, this is it. So for everybody watching this right now, just know there's an 83-year-old who couldn't function 2 years ago, who was bedridden, who went to all the doctors. They turned her away. They just threw medication at her, didn't give her any help. And she's starting to get hopeless, but she always, what made her recovery so spectacular is she always believed in her ability to live a better life, to be healthy again. She always had that spark inside. Even when the spark was dwindling, she never said, oh, I'm never going to get better. There were times where we feel like that. There are times where we may get into the negative self-talk, but she always said, no, I'm going to beat this thing. I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know when it's going to happen, but there's no way I'm just going to lie here and take this from this illness. I will figure this out. And as long as you have that mindset, it's only a matter of time before you find the thing that works for you. But if we say it ain't going to happen, then, that doesn't really give you a fighting chance. So I just wanted to share that story because that one was really, really powerful. Really powerful. That is the thriver mentality. 83 years old. That's a wild mindset. If I was in my 80s, I'd probably start, I don't know how I would think because I'm not 80, but that takes a different mindset. But that's also what's required to come out of these trenches, especially after being bedridden and really not functional at that age. So very, very proud of her. She's amazing, amazing woman. All right, let me go back up here. Okay, Simone. I made progress with my physical health, but feel that my emotional health is still suffering from having been sick for so long. Any recommendations for dealing with that? Yes. So this is a very, very common thing. Very common. It's great that physically you're doing much better. That's awesome. And a lot of times in recovery, you do have to shift focuses a little bit. So initially, what we think we want, or what we actually want, is we just want to feel better. We want to be able to do more, want to be able to move around the house, take showers, cook food, really just be a little bit more independent, right? Once you start doing all those things, then you realize a lot of the reason that you may have been stuck in the cycle or the reason you got sick was because your emotions weren't as regulated, right? That's a reason why a lot of people get this is because we're always on edge. We can be overly analytical, overthinkers, worst case scenario, um, all of these different things. So we realize there is a deeper root cause for a lot of this stuff. Okay, so we know we had symptoms. We know we got CFS. We know our nervous system has been on edge. Why has it been on edge? The more you learn about this, the more you realize it's, oh, wow, okay, my emotions were dysregulated. And so now that you have physical capacity back, I think it's a good time to shift focus to, rewiring a lot of the emotional stuff. And I have tons of videos about this, but this is actually a lot of what we cover inside some of the calls inside Recovery Academy. Um, it's hard to structure what that looks like. That's why it's not the easiest to make a lot of videos about the emotional side of things, especially like video modules and stuff. That's why most of the emotional improvements happen on live calls with people, because in real time you're able to check your emotions and adjust them along with other people. So honestly, I would really recommend getting into the academy for even just like a month, right? And that's going to help a lot. That's honestly what I would do, or watch YouTube videos about how to improve emotional health. So that's the do it yourself way. If you wanted some extra help, which I think it would be totally worth it, even just for a little bit, I would check out the Recovery Academy, because it's a thing that not a lot of people speak about it, especially as somebody who is sick. We think we just want to walk more and do more and be able to go out and all this stuff. But a lot of people, they can do all of those things and they're still not happy, right? They'll reach that place and feel kind of either empty, or they'll still get mood swings and stuff. So that really is the root cause of a lot of this stuff, why our nervous systems are dysregulated. So it's something you definitely want to address at some point. It's the deeper work, but that's what will keep you recovered, right? A lot of the stuff I share on this channel, there's strategies of how to get rid of the symptoms, how to walk more, how to do this and that. The emotional stuff is what is going to keep you recovered and prevent you from relapsing. All right. Let's see. Okay, Pillar asks, I would like to try brain retraining. I have a hard time relating to the concept of being afraid of symptoms or diagnosis. I had none. For 7 years, I keep deteriorating. Thank you for explaining. Yeah, no problem. No problem. Dive into the videos. I think people who are prone to CFS, so somebody commented, I think people who are prone to CFS are mostly athletes and people who are hardworking. Mm, okay, interesting. From what I've seen, it's not just mostly athletes. Actually, athletes are the small percentage of people who get this. What I've seen from my experience, and I've talked to literally thousands of people with this, what all of the cases have in common, well, yes, hardworking is one, but type A personality. I can almost I'm willing to bet that everybody watching this right now, there's 103 people live right now. They're probably type A personalities or have some kind of type A personality traits. Type A personality traits is, you know, let's actually search up what they are. I know what they are, but basically analytical. They can be overthinking, strong desire to achieve, very ambitious, competitive, um, a lot of times impatient or easily frustrated, uh, but they're typically highly motivated and driven people. They pay attention to detail almost a little bit too much, which keeps the brain in this overdrive mode of always being on. Type A personality people, it's very difficult for them to just sit down on a couch and watch a TV show or just chill out and relax. I was that way. A lot of times when I was hanging out with friends, I was thinking about all the productive things I should be doing. Or let's say I was camping with a family. I couldn't wait to get back home. I was eager to get back home so I could go back to reading books or studying or doing something like that. So type A personality people, it can be very difficult to live in the moment. So they're always stressed out about something that happened in the past or something that may happen or is going to happen in the future. So it can really start to pull them out of the present. That's what I see with a lot of people. And all of these traits are amplified when you have a hypersensitive nervous system. So if you're a little bit of an overthinker, you're going to be a heavy overthinker when you get all of these symptoms. If it's hard for you to relax, just in general, when you get CFS, it's very hard to relax. And you can imagine, well, you don't need to imagine, it can create that downward spiral of, okay, it's hard for me to relax, but now with all these symptoms, I really can't do anything. At least before I could go distract myself and go to the gym or work or, do whatever, look at my phone. Now I'm stuck in bed. I can't even look at my phone. The screen hurts my eyes. So it almost CFS forces you to take a deep look at a lot of these traits you have. And a lot of times the only way to come out of this illness is to adjust some of those personality traits. You have to learn to let go of control of certain things. And a lot of people with CFS or long COVID, they can fall into the trap of over tracking. How much did I walk? How far did I walk? What percentage am I at recovered? How much sleep am I getting? What kind of food am I eating? Did I take all my supplements? How much brain retaining am I doing? How long have I been in an AP for? It's 3 days now. Last time it was only 1 day. So am I doing something worse? So I'm just talking these thoughts that people have out loud, right? And you can see how these thoughts can start to add up. So what really helped me was stopping caring about a lot of stuff and really only focusing on one thing, which was responding well to symptoms. So it's almost like the less I cared about the symptoms, the faster I recovered. Now that didn't mean I just said, "Oh, screw the symptoms. I'm just going to go run down the street." That would be irresponsible. But the less questions I asked about why did this happen? Why am I flaring up? Why is this symptom here and the other symptom isn't there? Um, the less I focused on that and the more I focused on, okay, I got one job here, respond well to symptoms, because that's exactly what my doctor told me. He said, look, if you just follow this one rule, I call it the golden rule of recovery, you're going to turn out completely fine. You're going to recover. And I was like, really? So it's just one thing? Okay. So respond well to symptoms. If I just do that one thing right, everything else falls into place. And that really helped simplify a lot of things, especially when you're in the middle of a flare up. And I know because I've been through it so many times, it's very hard to think logically. Even though you know what you should be doing, even though you know you're going to be okay, even though you've had maybe 1,000 flare-ups in the past and you always made it through. If you're in a pretty intense flare-up, you can start to think, "Oh man, am I going to make it through this one? Could this be the one that takes me out?" So having just one thing to focus on, one, I guess, safety net thought to fall back on, which was respond well to symptoms, that made a huge difference in my recovery. Because for me, when all else failed and I didn't know what to do and I was scared and confused, golden rule in recovery: respond well to symptoms. Okay, respond well. And even overthinking, I saw that as a symptom because I would tend to overthink the worst when I was in a flare up. So responding well to symptoms, basically it's getting to a neutral, getting as close as you can to a neutral emotional state. So if I start thinking, oh shoot, did I overdo it? What if I crash tomorrow? The last time I did something like this, I remember I ended up in the hospital. What if I crash? Those thoughts, that's definitely not responding well to symptoms. So you want to tell yourself, oh no, I'm feeling symptoms. It's part of the process. I did activity. These are just uncomfortable sensations as a reaction to what I just did. Now, I didn't say all of that, but what I would say was, okay, yeah, the symptoms that's supposed to happen. Okay, just respond well. It's just a hypersensitive nervous system. Instead of, uh-oh, my heart rate's up. Am I having a heart attack? My legs are giving out. Can I walk? I'm feeling dizzy. Did I have a stroke? As soon as I started thinking those thoughts, I said, you know what? No, no, no. It's just a hypersensitive nervous system. And I think for me, just having something to point the finger at and kind of blame for all this stuff, which was a hypersensitive nervous system, it really helped because at least I had an explanation for what I was feeling. I think a reason I had a lot of anxiety was I didn't know what the cause was. So I didn't know if my heart was shutting down or if I had a stroke. Once I knew that I was actually fine and I knew the culprit behind this, I knew it was okay. It's like if you're walking through a haunted house and then every minute you hear a weird sound and it freaks you out and you're thinking, "What is that? What could that be?" Right? You hear this weird sound. So you're thinking there's a ghost, there's a demon. Is this thing haunting me? Is there another person in this house? Is there some serial killer? You start thinking worst case scenarios, and then you get upstairs to where that sound is coming from and you realize it's the wind making the window blow open. And then it just happens every minute or two. So now you have an explanation for what that scary thing is. So you go back downstairs, you explore, and then you hear that sound again. And then you say, "Oh, I know what that is. That's the wind. That's not some demon or some ghost. That's just the wind." So when there's an explanation, it makes it much, much simpler. But I hope this helped for all of you guys. We got a lot of great comments and questions here. If you did need some extra help, if you did want some extra guidance on this stuff, we do have the Recovery Academy where we dive deep into all of this. And if you did want some extra help, like a personalized plan, kind of like what I showed you here, if you wanted, let's see, this is what we have now. If you wanted us to identify exactly where you're at, what your roadblocks are, if you wanted us to help solve those and really show your recovery trajectory, you can apply for Recovery Academy Platinum. We have a few spots available for our May 2025 intake. I think there's like 7 spots available right now. But we run that every month. That's for more of our one-to-one stuff in addition to the group. But check out the Recovery Academy. I'll share it on my YouTube and also my Instagram. So keep it up, guys. Keep responding well to symptoms. Remember the golden rule of recovery. You can forget everything I just talked to you about on this call. If you just respond well to symptoms, you're going to do great. So hope you guys enjoy this one. I got to get to a team call, and I'll see you guys in the next Q&A live. See you guys.